Previously, we had some general tips on finding the sample size and also using the internet to our advantage to look for the sample size. The last rather of these general tips would be to use a formula. There are many different formulas you can use depending on what you know or what you do not know about your population. If you know some parameters about your population, like a known standard deviation, you can use some formulas such as Cochrane's formula. However, the things that we would need for Cochrane's formula is not yet discussed in our class, so we cannot show yet Cochrane's formula. However, we do have a formula that we can use if you do not know much about your population, which is Slovin's formula. So determining the sample size, if you do not know much about your population, we can use Slovin's formula, which is the sample size would be equal to the population size divided by the sum of 1 and the product of the population size and the square of the margin of error. So all we need to know is the population size and your margin of error of choice, and we can already compute for our sample size, even though you don't have your confidence interval. Let's have this example. Given the population size is 250 and the margin of error is 1%, let us find the sample size n. Now, do take note that even though 250 is relatively small and you might have the budget to survey 250 people, you might not have enough time and you still want to find the sample size. Further, you want to make sure that you're only allowing yourself to have 1% of error with your survey, even though you don't know whether or you don't know how confident you are rather that your survey will be consistently answered. At least you know that you're allowing yourself only 1% error. With that case, we can now find your sample size, small n, which will be equal to 250 divided by 1 plus 250 multiplied by 1% squared. And you can easily input this in your calculators. And if we input this in the calculators, we will have 243.90 rounded up to 2 decimal places here. However, we do not have a 0.90 person. So, if this is the answer for our sample size, we always have to round up. Meaning, when we say round up, when we round it up rather, this will become now 244. Now, round up does not mean like this. Also, if, for example, you have 243.1, in the usual round off, this will become 243. But this is round off, and that's not what we will do. For round up, if it's 243.1, it would still be 244. So our sample size is 244, just 6 short of the population size. Now, why do we need to round up though? Because the larger the sample size, of course, we are more accurate in our answer, and of course, less actual error than the error that we are perceiving. So that is how Slovin's formula is used. Let's have another example. Given the population size is 15,000 and the margin of error is 10%, find the sample size n. So pause the video and try to solve for the sample size. So here, to solve for our sample size, we'll have our population size of 15,000 over 1 plus 15,000 multiplied by 10% squared. And this will give us approximately 99.34. But again, we have to round up, so therefore we shall have 100 as our sample size. So, if you do not know much about your population, and for some reason it's difficult to access the internet for the sample size, then we can use Slovin's formula.